obviously as you start scaling a Facebook ad account, there's more and more advanced like strategies and techniques that you're using. But when you're diving in, whether someone's doing 20,000 a month or 2 million a month, it's still the same concept that you can't outspend your problems. So, we might be doing it on a little bit larger scale, but like, I still, it kind of surprises me how many people come into the conversation feeling like they need to like spend a ton right out of the gate, and that's not necessarily the case. But the beautiful thing about it is like, all we are asking when we're looking at something like that is if we can dive in there and create a system that you can see like in live time, this is creating me money, here's what my acquisition cost is, here's my lifetime value. If that's check, and we're making you money, let's scale it. And that's where bigger companies have a huge advantage, is like if you can just, don't come in and like guns blazing, but as soon as we crack that nut for you, use your resources towards that and you'll blow up.
What's up, brother? How's it going, man?
Dude, it's going good. Just doing a little science lesson with the children.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Learn about mass and volume and how to make aluminum foil boats.
Nice.
What's up?
So, dude, I was just thinking, there's like a ton of content out there for e-commerce stores and like supporting people who are just getting started. But dude, one thing that we've been realizing more and more is that there's a huge area of underserved people that are already doing like 6 figures a month, that already have 7 figures a year business, but they're still kind of like in the same boat as somebody just getting started, but they're actually like real established businesses. But it's not like they don't know how to run a business, but still like the Facebook ads thing hasn't like fully been brought into their world. And so it's pretty crazy. I feel like we've been seeing it a lot where we're auditing an account and like they have sales history, they have proof of concept, they have like substantial stuff coming in organically and through other channels, but still like their Facebook ad stuff is still like so elementary compared to like what it could be. But then what I think is the biggest tragedy is that they think they've already been served, and they think that they've already seen the best of Facebook ads because they come in, they'll talk to an agency, and there's really only a small percentage of agencies that know how to serve people at a high level with their Facebook ads. And so these big brands, I feel like they're just getting kind of run through the dirt a little bit, because they'll come in, they'll say like, hey, we're looking to spend 50 or 100 grand a month. And then the agency, they'll take a percentage of ad spend, but then they'll do just like the most random, like elementary crap, like tracking's not set up, they don't even have like a fully fleshed out funnel. And so then they're just like crossing their arms, like they're saying like, well, dude, that was a big waste of time and money. And I know these are like a lot of the people that you've been talking to. So I just wanted to invite you into this conversation and see, kind of like, we give a lot of advice for people just getting going, but like what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's like already an established business about this tool, about Facebook ads?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the immediate thing that comes to mind is just don't fear it. Like I think a lot of times there's like a fear of the unknown. And we talked about this the other day where some people kind of like, even though their marketing efforts aren't doing the greatest, having the same issues kind of like quarter in and quarter out, and can't get past a certain comp. It's easier to stick to more traditional things because it's kind of like this concept of like the double you know versus the double you don't.
Right.
I also feel like another thing, when you're diving into it, I mean, well, there's 2 big ones. Like, I think it can be confusing for bigger companies, like looking at Facebook as a full option, because even just like confusion with like Facebook, the platform, like that their grandma's liking pictures of their dog on compared to like business and that we're not here to, drive social engagement or get likes to your page. So we're all about like the actual analytics and like truly performing a Facebook account is about conversion. It's not, social engagement, at least from our perspective. I don't know. So that's a big one.
Yeah, like using it, like there's so many vanity metrics too, right? So like someone who doesn't know how to use Facebook can go and launch an ad and then get, hundreds of shares or something and then feel kind of good about it. Or maybe they hire somebody and that's like kind of the things they're reporting. But like at the end of the day, if it's not creating conversion, there's no like sales, like that's when there's a red flag, right?
Yeah, totally. And then I think it's kind of hard to dive into like a new platform and come from a position of strength if you don't know what you're doing. So like think about these companies that are doing like, let's just say, this is still relatively small, like 500,000 a month to like $1 million a month in sales. They've like done their traditional thing. I'm just like guessing not everyone who's doing that is like super smart, but most of those people are. Like, so most of them like really know what they're doing. They've gotten good at it. And then they dive into a world where it's like, they're getting so many different opinions and all of a sudden they're kind of like starting back over. And I think like a big fear that I've heard, because a lot of times like when I'll talk to companies like that, I'll ask a realistic question at the beginning. Okay, so you guys want to do, you want to do X, Y, and Z. Have you guys thought about what kind of budget you put towards it? And I've heard this like answer like multiple times. People say, well, I don't want to tell you what my budget is, you tell me.
Right.
Because at some point they've talked to an agency that said that they heard, hey, we have $100,000 a month to test on this. And that agency's like, oh wow, we can just spend this. And like, I mean, I think, us coming from like kind of like a grassroots to where we are now, I think it gives us a unique perspective because the challenges that like big companies are dealing with their advertising, they're actually the same as the smaller ones. It's actually kind of easier because a lot of times the bigger ones are more established. They already have like brand awareness and like there's so much you can do.
And assets to work with, just tons of like purchase history, customer data, all of that is all dialed in. So you're totally right. It's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, to look at it correctly, I think obviously as you start scaling a Facebook ad account, there's more and more advanced like strategies and techniques that you're using. But when you're diving in, whether someone's doing 20,000 a month or 2 million a month, it's still the same concept that you can't outspend your problems. So, we might be doing it on a little bit larger scale, but like, I still, it kind of surprises me how many people come into the conversation feeling like they need to like spend a ton right out of the gate, and that's not necessarily the case. But the beautiful thing about it is like, all we are asking when we're looking at something like that is if we can dive in there and create a system that you can see, like in live time, this is creating me money. Here's what my acquisition cost is. Here's my lifetime value. If that's check, and we're making you money, let's scale it. And that's where bigger companies have a huge advantage is like, if you can just, don't come in and like guns blazing, but as soon as we crack that nut for you, use your resources towards that and you'll blow up,
Yeah. Dude, and one other thing that I love about it is when it's working, when it's doing its job, like it makes sense. And so I feel like there's a lot of people, and you've spoken with dozens, maybe hundreds of people who do have like legit, big businesses that run and function and they're profitable and they have huge opportunity with this platform, but they're not jumping into it because maybe they've tried it a little bit on their past, maybe they've hired somebody in-house to do this or hired an agency or a freelancer. And I feel like there's kind of a common theme with a lot of these people. They're like, yeah, I tried it, but like something fell off or it didn't work. And so I feel like more often than not, there's people that'll show up into meetings with you and they'll already have like a sneaky suspicion that like what they've done in the past or what somebody did for them like wasn't the right thing. And so I just want to be able to give people like the full assurance, like when it works, like that it works, it makes sense, the reporting's there, and you directly attribute like growth to very specific strategies. And so if it's something where like someone is in a situation where they're second guessing it, they're like, what is this actually doing? Like 100%, like that's a very valid suspicion. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's one of like the biggest misconceptions I think that people have have, especially companies that have been around before kind of Facebook, is like they think they kind of like poo-poo on Facebook like it's just kind of this like fluffy platform. And even some agencies are like this where they're viewing it as like an art, which sure there's some of that, but Facebook Business Manager and understanding how to track your data is way more of a science than an art. Like that's kind of how like the approach that we've taken. So I think people are always like, I don't know, that's the feedback I get when we have someone on board. They're really nervous, and then all of a sudden they start seeing it take off, and we show them, hey, it's not that big of a deal. We're doing this in your ad account. You can look at this anytime you want. You can see exactly what's going on. It's always like a relief, like to see that like that fear of the unknown is gone, and it's not some like abstract thing where you put money into something, and maybe that turns into an email list, which maybe turns into this, which maybe turns into this, which maybe turns into this. Like once you're going down those trails and you can't track the money, how are you ever going to scale? That's what's beautiful about like I think agency that has like a analytical approach to it. Is if we go on and talk to like a real business person, one of my favorite things talking to like some of these guys that are super smart is like to show them that like, dude, this is the same thing you guys have already been doing. We can just walk circles around your current marketing efforts because we can try 20 different things in live time on very small budgets and tell you exactly what's working and what's not. Like try doing that on your traditional media buys,
Dude, no kidding.
Yeah.
Dude, well that's awesome. This is obviously like a huge subject, and we could talk all day on it if we wanted to. But yeah, I feel like even just sharing some of that can help give somebody who's in that situation, if they're an established business, who's maybe like written this off as a potential growth tool for them, to at least reconsider it, maybe think about it a little bit more. So, dude, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, totally. I'm so glad you're asking these questions, dude, because I think at the end of the day, the opportunity is there. It's just like anything. There'll be resources that, get put out. You can have 100 people go through a course or a class or a training, and there's always going to be a percentage of people that run with it and it blows up their business, and there's always going to be people that don't. That'd be my biggest advice is like, Facebook is booming right now. E-commerce has been at its highest ever. Brick and mortar is shrinking as, more and more business opportunities come up. And like, I just would encourage people to like make that leap while it's here.
Yeah.
I think it's the best time it's ever been, in my opinion anyways.
Totally. And as an e-commerce growth agency, like we're obviously kind of pushing the Facebook, Instagram stuff, but if that were to change tomorrow, like we don't care. This is genuinely like us. This is genuinely us trying to.
Like, is this past its prime? Like, it's too late. Facebook was something different 3 years ago.
Right.
As an agency, this, Rob. But like, we'll see how it pans out over the next month and a half, 2 months. There's a solid chance we're gonna double our Q4 revenue in Q1 this year.
Right.
It's always our smallest.
Dude.
Think about that. It's insane. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so this isn't us like trying to sell Facebook or Instagram. Right. No, but it's just probably the best place to spend money, especially for like an e-commerce business. So if that changed, we'll be on top of it. But yeah, pretty amazing stuff happening. And it's not just for people getting started. So anyways, dude, thanks so much, and we'll chat later.
You too. See you, Rob.
All right, see ya.